Hi, I'm Pete Clark from the Autism Infocast. So today we'll be looking at how to recognise autism around you and how you can help, because knowing how to respond with kindness and respect can make everyday encounters so much better for everyone. Did you know that autism is often called a hidden disability? That basically just means you can't just tell if someone's autistic by looking at them. Many autistic people learn to mask and camouflage their natural behaviours just to fit in with the world around them, which can make spotting those autistic traits a bit less straightforward than you might think. So, today I'm going to guide you through some of those common differences that you might notice, and more importantly, share some simple practical tips on how you can respond with real compassion and understanding. First, let's talk about communication and social interactions. Autistic people might find it difficult to understand subtle social cues like facial expressions, body language, gestures, or tone of voice. They often communicate in a very direct and literal way, which means they say exactly what they mean. Because of that, they might struggle with sarcasm and metaphors and figures of speech like saying it's raining cats and dogs. It is literally not raining cats and dogs outside. Sometimes that directness of theirs gets misinterpreted as being a bit blunt or perhaps even a bit rude. But actually, what it is really just a different way of speaking. So you might find that autistic people find it hard to maintain or start conversations or even to know when to take turns in a conversation. Also, direct eye contact can be quite challenging for them. You might also notice sensory sensitivities. So many autistic people are much more affected than others by things like sound, loud noises, bright lights, strong smells, or even strong tastes or strong textures, textiles that feel funny. Um, Public spaces like shopping centres or busy waiting rooms are often filled with overwhelming sensory input, which can lead to a kind of sensory overload. And that causes anxiety and distress, possibly even an autistic meltdown. So, you might also see in autistic people the need for routine and predictability and rules. So unexpected changes to a plan or a new and unfamiliar environment or somebody who's not following the rules that they seem to know about, they can all be really challenging and anxiety inducing for autistic people. Many of them have very intense hobbies or interests that they focus on really deeply, and they might want to do what's called info dumping, which is basically telling you all about their particular subject of interest, even if it doesn't seem particularly relevant to the conversation you were having. You might also notice repetitive behaviours, which are often called stimming or self-stimulating behaviours, like hand flapping or rocking or drumming fingers, tapping toes, moving the legs, anything like that. Those behaviours actually serve a real purpose for that person. That it's helping them to regulate their own emotions and sensory inputs, and they certainly aren't doing it to annoy anyone. Sometimes what looks like a challenging behaviour is actually just a form of communication. It might be, for example, a way of trying to express something that they haven't got the words for, or make someone aware of an unmet need, like being unable to communicate pain, or feeling completely overwhelmed and not being able to work out how to say that. A lack of understanding about autism can lead to all these kinds of behaviours being misinterpreted, which is why your patience is so valuable. So the big question is, how can you get that right? How can you promote better interactions? And the key, as always, is your understanding and kindness and respect and compassion. So always try to communicate clearly. Be clear and direct in your language. Try to avoid sarcasm, jargon, idioms, metaphors. These are all often taken literally and they're really confusing. Be patient and allow time for other people to think, especially if you're asking a question in the middle of a conversation and there's this really awkward pause. Please don't be tempted to try and fill the gap in the conversation. Don't ask, "Did you hear me?" or don't repeat the question. Give them time. They're probably thinking very carefully about the words you said, deciding what you meant by it, trying to compose their own answer in their head, then trying to find the right words to express that in a way that they think is probably not going to annoy you. It all takes time. Give them that little bit of extra time to formulate their response. Don't rush them. Also, you need to check for understanding. Just asking, "Do you understand?" might not be enough, because some people might say yes, even if they don't really understand. A lot of autistic people use what's called scripted conversation, which is when they don't really know how to handle a conversation, they have a list of pre-rehearsed phrases and words and answers that they draw on. They don't always necessarily reflect what the person is thinking. They just pick the one that's nearest and say it. So you might need to be willing to repeat or rephrase information in different ways if necessary, and ask direct questions to make sure everything is actually clear. The other thing you can do is you can offer very specific help. If you sense someone is struggling, offer specific ways you can help rather than just a general, "Can I help you?" For example, you could ask something really specific like, "Can I help you find that?" Or, "Would you like me to turn down the music a bit?" Also be mindful of the environment for that matter. If you're in a position to influence the environment around you, like say you work in a shop or you're part of a community group, consider how the sensory stimuli around you might affect someone. Very small adjustments like dimming bright lights or reducing a bit of background noise, they can make an absolutely huge difference. Also, be ready to respect somebody else's boundaries and routines. Be mindful of their personal space. And if you can, provide advance notice of any changes to plans, because unexpected changes can be very distressing. Also, avoid assumptions and stereotypes. Don't assume that you know what an autistic person is thinking or feeling, and don't rely on the stereotypes you see in the media so often. Autistic people are all individuals with their own unique strengths and their own unique challenges. No two are the same. Choose patience and kindness. If someone's behaviour seems different or unexpected, understand that it might just be a response to feeling overwhelmed or being unable to communicate a need. And finally, of course, take the time to learn a bit more. Educating yourself a bit more about autism demonstrates genuine interest and respect. It makes sense. So, by doing these few practical things that we've talked about today, and approaching your interactions with a bit more empathy and willingness to adapt, you will be creating a much more inclusive and supportive community where autistic people feel understood and respected and valued. Remember, your small actions can make a huge difference in enabling those people to live full and meaningful lives. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe now on YouTube and follow us on social media, or visit autisminfocenter.org on the web for free autism news, articles, books, videos, podcasts, resources and courses. See you in the next video.